All right, let's talk about something that trips up so many growing B2B companies, the relationship between sales and marketing. The big question is always, which one has to come first if you really want to build something that can scale? The answer? Well, it might surprise you.
You know the drill, right? This is the default setting for almost everyone. If you want to grow, you just pour money into marketing. The idea is that marketing will create demand, bring in leads, and fill up that sales pipeline. It makes perfect sense on the surface. It's what we've all been taught.
But what if that whole idea is kind of flawed? What if marketing's real job isn't to create something out of thin air? What if it's supposed to do something completely different? This is the big idea, the fundamental reframe we're going to dig into.
And here it is. This is the whole ball game. Marketing is an amplifier. Think of it like a giant megaphone. It takes a signal that's already there, a process that's already working, and it just makes it way louder. But what happens if there's no signal to start with? Well, then all you're amplifying is static, just noise and confusion.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the problem. Let's really look at why so many companies hit a wall when they try to use marketing as a creator instead of what it really is, an amplifier.
Oh man, does this look familiar to anyone else? The second that growth chart starts to flatten out, what's the knee-jerk reaction? We need more marketing, right? We start pumping out more blog posts, launching more ad campaigns, just doing more stuff. We generate all this activity, hoping some of it magically sticks and turns into money. But most of the time, it just adds to the noise.
So if marketing is just an amplifier, what's it supposed to be amplifying? This is where this idea of a sales motion becomes absolutely critical. We've got to be crystal clear on what this actually means before we can go any further.
The definition of a sales motion is actually pretty simple. It's just a proven, predictable path. It's the journey a real buyer who has a real problem takes to make a real decision to buy your product. The key here is that it's all about their journey, not just your internal sales process.
And we have to be super clear on this. A sales motion is not your CRM software. It's not a pretty funnel diagram you drew on a whiteboard. And it's definitely not just hiring more salespeople. It's the consistent patterns you see in your buyers and the fact that you can actually explain your wins and your losses. It all comes down to one word: predictability.
Here is the absolute simplest gut check for you. Ask yourself this. Does every single new deal feel like you're reinventing the wheel? Totally custom proposals, brand new objections you've never heard, timelines that are all over the place? If the answer is yes, then you don't have a sales motion. What you have is just a series of one-off projects.
And this, right here, is why getting the sequence wrong is just so painful. Because when you try to layer marketing on top of a system that's pure chaos, the whole thing just grinds to a halt.
You'll see these symptoms pop up everywhere. You're scaling your marketing, the leads are coming in, but they just die. They go nowhere. Your sales team starts complaining, these leads are junk. You've got all these dashboards lighting up with clicks and views and downloads, but none of it connects to actual revenue. And pretty soon, the sales and marketing teams start pointing fingers, fighting over who gets credit for that one random deal that actually closes.
And eventually, after all the frustration and wasted money, the entire team lands on one simple but totally wrong conclusion. They just throw their hands up and say, well, I guess marketing doesn't work for us.
But here's the real diagnosis. It's not that marketing is failing. It's that marketing was asked to do an impossible job. It was asked to fix a fundamental sales problem. You simply can't amplify a signal that isn't there. Pouring a fire hose of leads into a leaky, unpredictable system, that's never ever going to work.
So, how do you know when you're actually ready to hit the gas? How can you spot the real signals that tell you, okay, now we have something repeatable? This is probably the most important part of the whole thing.
See, motion usually develops in these three stages. First, you've got the founder-led motion. It works, but only because the founder is a superhero who makes every sale happen through sheer force of will. It's not scalable. The real magic starts in stage 2, when you find a repeatable motion. That's when the patterns emerge. And only after you've nailed that do you get to stage 3, where marketing can finally come in and do its job: amplify.
So how do you know you're in stage 2? Well, you start to see things over and over again. You start hearing the same 2 or 3 objections on every call. Your buyers start asking the same set of questions. You know exactly why deals are stalling out at a certain point. And, most importantly, you can clearly explain why you win and why you lose. The randomness, it's finally gone.
Let's just pause on this for a second, because it's so critical.
If your sales process feels like a slot machine, where the outcomes are totally random and unpredictable, adding more leads is like just shoveling more coins into that machine. It's not a growth strategy, it's just a much more expensive way to experience chaos.
So when you put it all together, the big takeaway here is actually pretty simple. This isn't usually a problem of effort or budget or tactics. It's a problem of timing. It's a sequencing problem.
And that's the real question I want to leave you with. If you're feeling frustrated with your growth, before you go hire another agency or launch another big campaign, just stop and ask yourself, is the problem really our marketing, or did we just try to amplify a signal that wasn't really there yet? Because getting that sequence right, well, that changes absolutely everything.